What's up, YouTube? So, I got a special video here today, and one that I have very mixed feelings on. So, essentially, there was an American citizen who was like in charge of a Nazi, um, not like a party, but like a Nazi group or whatever in America. A couple of charters. Um, and he was raising his children, his son specifically, to be Nazi, and he was essentially, well, murdered. Spoilers to the video. He was essentially murdered by his son, his 9-year-old son. Um, it's an interesting video. I'm gonna play this short documentary. We're going to cover why the boy said he murdered his father. We're going to cover who this guy was. Because I mean, I knew there was like a Nazi political party, but I didn't know that they were like actual charters with lots of people across America. Like, I didn't know these people were so open about it. And this guy taught his son, was trying to teach his son Nazism, and his 9-year-old son, ended up killing him. So, let's watch this video, and I honestly got mixed opinions about this, so I wanna share this video and see what you guys think about it, and I'll say what I need to say towards the end, as well as some, my usual commentary in between. So let's get to the video.
Earlier this year, the leader of a neo-Nazi group was murdered in Riverside, California. His name was Jeff Hall. He was a burly man, 6'3", a devoted father of 5 young children, and a plumber who had been unemployed for 3 years. Jeff Hall was shot at near zero range in his own living room. What was astonishing was who shot him.
I'm not gonna say that this is semi-common, but parents that have like very, very extremist views that are going through a hard time in life. This guy, you're gonna see later on in the video that this guy has been unemployed for 3 years. So stack a parent that's going through a rough phase with extreme views and trying to raise a child like that. Now, not all of these kids murder their parents. I mean, that is still semi-rare, at least in America. Kids usually don't go around murdering their parents, but usually households like this, there is some type of violence. Um, uh, Unfortunate situation for everybody involved.
The story will...
By the way, so people don't get the wrong idea, I'm not defending Nazism. I'm just... The main reason I have mixed opinions about this is because of the child that's involved. Because, murder is murder. So, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
Continue in a moment.
We've been through a lot together, some of us, seriously.
This is 32-year-old Jeff Hall. These pictures were taken...
Dude has a fucking tattoo on the back of his head. I don't know, maybe that has to do with why he had a hard time finding more employment.
just hours before he was executed right in this room. The executioner...
That's his son, by the way. Oh, look at his shirt. Video games hometown. This is a hard video to make. That poor kid's life is probably ruined forever.
This child, his son, his 10-year-old son. But if you find this image disturbing, consider this one taken 2 weeks earlier. A neo-Nazi rally on the streets of Trenton, New Jersey.
Who streets? Our streets! Who streets? Our streets! Who streets? Our streets! Sing home!
Jeff Hall was a rising star in the largest neo-Nazi group in the country, the National Socialist Movement, or NSM.
National Socialist Movement. I heard about these guys briefly a while back, but I didn't. I kind of thought it was a joke. I didn't know these guys were like actually serious.
You know where to find me.
The numbers nationwide are still small, 500 members tops, but they're growing.
This isn't dress up. This isn't a game. We're fighting for our children's future.
According to Jeff,
There's so many ironies in that statement. I'll let you guys. I'll let you guys react to that. What he just said.
Hall and the NSM, that future would be an all-white, non-Semitic America.
There's other groups I could join. There's tons of them.
I don't understand if these people want nothing but white people in their country. I don't understand why they don't just go to Europe. I mean, there's plenty of countries in Europe where Caucasians are still the vast majority. I don't understand why. America was founded on diversity between people. I don't understand why they want to take a country that was literally founded on having all races of people living together. And I don't understand why they want to take a country that was founded on that and want to convert it to the extreme when there's other countries that they would have an easier time fitting in with their ideology. But I digress. I mean, if these guys, this shit costs money, right? If these guys have the money to do this, I'm sure they have the money to just go to another country where their ideals are more accepted. But I digress. Just a logical input there.
Hall joined only 3 years ago. But seen as personable and charismatic,
These fucking, I gotta say this, man. Hold on.
charismatic.
These uniforms is all wrong too, man. Like, holy shit. Because World War II history used to be my shtick, okay? That used to be my shit, When I was in high school, that was my favorite subject. World War II, World War I, the Korean War. I memorized the uniforms of, the Nazis, the Soviets, the DPRK, the Chinese. These uniforms is wrong, like all fucking wrong. And that's these groups in a nutshell. They talk about how one thing is superior over the other, but then on a layman's level, they can't even get the basic fundamentals of the thing they worship correct. The uniforms, look, the guy on the left especially, oh my god, this is hurting my eyes.
He quickly became the leader of
I'm not a fan of the Nazis, by the way. I have to state this directly and clearly before people get the wrong idea. But in order to know the truth, you have to analyze all sides of history and not just, what one side teaches you, so to speak. But, the uniforms are all fucking wrong.
the NSM in California,
Arizona,
Utah, and Nevada.
Ho! Ho! Ho!
This
They're not even doing the salute right either. I don't know. I'm sure the history buffs that'll watch this video, they'll get where I'm coming from. This is just triggering to look at. It's all fucking wrong.
footage was shot by Julie Plattner, a filmmaker and photographer who was able to gain the NSM's trust.
Oh my god, these uniforms. Like, if you're gonna fucking be worshiping Hitler and worshiping the Nazis, at least get the basic shit. Oh my god, I can't look at these uniforms. Alright, let me stop bitching.
How you doing, Miss Julie?
And enter their closed world of private meetings.
Julie has me, Mike.
Private meetings, yet there's cameras everywhere recording the private meeting. Oh, this guy's got a fucking tattoo on. Oh, that's the same guy. I digress.
She quickly honed in on Jeff Hall.
Jeff, nice to meet you.
Jeff Hall cultivated a sense of family among his new recruits,
Yeah, we did good.
holding his monthly meetings at his house with the kids around.
I like how there's one fucking guy. Look at the guy on the right. This guy's clearly not Caucasian. Or if he is Caucasian, he's clearly mixed with something. Looks like, Pakistani, maybe Indian, something from the Middle East or, the west side of Asia. middle side of Asia, this guy's clearly not completely white. I mean, he's not white at all. And he's at a fucking neo-Nazi barbecue. I wonder what's going through his... look at his facial expression. I wonder what's going through his mind. They said he's part of the family, so I'm wondering if this is like his grandson, great-grandson, or a cousin or something. I'm wondering what he's thinking. Like, damn, I'm clearly not white, and I'm at a fucking neo-Nazi gathering. This is surreal, but I digress.
He's at his house with the kids around, including his son Joseph. These gatherings were a strange mix of Nazi propaganda
And that's how we apply what we learned from Mein Kampf.
and party games.
I got all the right answers, guys.
A birthday celebration topped off by... Jeff's mother, Joanne Patterson, went to some of her son's meetings despite abhorring her son's politics.
I wanted to make sure it was okay for my grandkids to be there. And I had a great time. It looked like any barbecue in any backyard in America.
But they were Nazis.
It looked like any normal, regular barbecue in America, but they were Nazis. Oh, this woman's funny.
Well,
We're just sitting here talking about Nazis.
I know, it's crazy.
They're in your own
In
family.
America,
I know, it's crazy, huh?
My
Yeah,
son
it's
became a Nazi.
Yeah, a Nazi leader.
I have an aunt on the white side of my family that looks and acts similar to her. Funny enough. Same mannerisms, same way of joking, the whole 9 yards. Because I got, my grandmother, she's not alive anymore, but my grandmother on the white side of my family, her brothers were actually Klansmen. I didn't even know she had brothers until after she died, and my mom was telling me about it. Apparently, I met these guys when I was a baby. I met some KKK guys when I was a baby from my grandmother's side of the family. America is a very funny place, Apparently, that side of the family was hardcore prejudice until me and my brother was born. Because apparently they've never seen mixed children before. But I don't know. I just find this kind of stuff funny.
On Saturday, April 30th, her son Jeff held what would be his last get-together. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, to the extent this is ordinary.
Ooh, a serpent.
10-year-old Joseph was running in and out of the house.
And to be fair, this kind of stuff isn't out of the ordinary in America, especially California. California's wild, but American people were kind of crazy, so this kind of stuff isn't abnormal at all. If it's not Nazism, it's gangbanging. If it's not gangbanging, it's extreme political ideologies. It's one thing or another. You kind of see this kind of stuff that, And the way she was right when she said, oh, just a normal barbecue. Now, obviously, you don't see Nazis everywhere at a normal barbecue, but you usually do see some sort of extreme views at barbecues if there's enough people. So
Tell me outside, man.
All the kids were. Dad even took some of them to see his Nazi glow-in-the-dark t-shirt with its SS insignia.
imagine if Nazis in the 40s had glow-in-the-dark uniforms. It's just crazy. America, we're so privileged, yet in a lot of ways we take advantage of it. Glow-in-the-dark Nazi shirts? Seriously? You want to change the country that allows you to have these ridiculous views and peace with your glow-in-the-dark shirts? Like, come on, bro. Imagine if he actually lived in Nazi Germany in the 40s. I don't think this guy would have survived, but I digress.
The little things in life.
This is the last recorded image of Jeff Hall alive. After people left that night, the family watched a movie.
I like how the last recorded image of this guy was when he turned his back to display his skull and cross. Almost as if whoever took this video knew he was going to die soon. But I digress. Let's not jump to conspiracy.
Yogi Bear, as Jeff slept on the couch. After people left that night, the family watched a movie, Yogi Bear, as Jeff slept on the couch. The others went upstairs to bed. Then, at 4:02 a.m.,
911 emergency.
My son shot my husband. I need an ambulance. He's bleeding.
If you're gonna call 911, you should start. You're supposed to start off by saying the address. So like if somebody just got shot, the police kind of need to know where the fuck you are. That's kind of important, right? But I digress.
How old is your son?
10.
How old is your son?
10. Oh my God.
You were the first detective at the scene.
That was actually wrong. The kid was 10 when he shot his father, not 9. My bad.
After the murder, is that correct?
That's correct.
Detective Greg Rowe saw Jeff Hall dead on the couch. He says little Joseph, who was found hiding upstairs under his covers, described calmly how he had gotten the family's Rossi 357 Magnum from his dad's closet.
Went downstairs and shot his dad. He described how he used his 4 fingers to cock the gun and used 2 fingers to pull the trigger, and he pointed at his ear.
This was not a case of a kid thinking it was a toy and letting it go off by accident.
There's no evidence that this was anything but intentional.
I mean, I believe it. You take a child that probably had a predisposition to psychopathy, sociopathy, a predisposition to violence. You indoctrinate him with Nazi ideology, which further teaches violence. You got a recipe for disaster.
Prosecutor Michael Socchio.
When he was taken into juvenile hall, he was so little they didn't have shoes to fit him. So they had to go out and buy him a little pair of tennis shoes. He asked if he'd be able to keep the shoes when he left, which showed an absolute lack of understanding of what was going to be happening.
Yeah. You know, it's, again, and this is why I have mixed opinions, and you can tell the prosecutor, you can just listen carefully to what he just said.
He left, which showed an absolute lack of understanding of what was going to be happening.
This prosecutor already had in his mind, the minute he saw this case, that he was going to make sure, he was going to try to make sure this little kid does some serious time in prison. And again, murder is murder. You know, all of your actions have consequences. If you murder your own parent, there's consequences for that. And you know, I'm not naive. I understand that even if you're a little kid, the juvenile, the criminal justice system does not go easy on you. Especially not in California. So, and this is why I have mixed opinions about it, because let's play more of the video, and then I'll cover that point when I need to cover it. But what do you guys think so far?
The Department of Justice reports only 9 cases of a 10-year-old killing a parent since 1980. But then, how many American kids are raised by a Nazi? When you heard that the victim was the head of the local Nazi organization, did you just think to yourself that that had something to do with it?
Look at the look on this prosecutor's face. He doesn't care. A 10-year-old kid comes in after he murdered his parents. If he convicts this child, do you know what that's going to do for his career, man? You can just tell he doesn't care, you know. But let's hear what he has to say.
When I first heard it, I thought there's got to be some connection with
Listen to the words he's using. Connection. He's looking for evidence. He's looking for conviction. Prosecutors are not your friends. Judges are not your friends. Police are not your friends, okay? This is... Don't think for a second that if your child does a serious crime, that the law in America is going to give them leeway. They don't. The maximum security jail I was working at when I was a correctional officer, I saw quite a few. Then this is the funny thing, right? They just opened a jail in Baltimore called YDC, Youth Detention Center, which is a whole jail, or it might be a prison. I'll need to double check. No, it's a jail, detention center. But it's a whole jail built specifically for little kids. You know, and we had teenagers at MTC, the jail I worked at. But so they're opening up more jails, you know, for juveniles and little kids. I mean, it just goes to show you how these guys, he's not seeing a child. Look at his eyes. Look at his facial expression. He's not seeing a child. He's seeing a murderer. And yeah, to be fair, he did murder his father. But I mean, I don't know. You guys be the judge.
Nazi views with guns, with weapons, with violence.
Hate speech.
Hate speech.
Yeah.
Sure.
Look, see, he's looking. Yeah, sure. Anything that can help my prosecution.
That was just about everyone's assumption. So we set out to discover why Jeff
Ironically, he's sitting in front of a door that says stop.
Hall became a Nazi 3 years ago.
I think the biggest factor that contributed was the economy. When the housing market just fell apart in California, he had no work. He hadn't worked for 3 years.
He was in
When you have a giant fucking tattoo on the back of your bald head that screams to employers, don't hire me. All of our actions have consequences, people. He probably thought that he would have that construction job forever. The people that ran the company, they were probably in his chapter or charter, so they could have been Nazis too. That could have been how he got the job. But unfortunately, if your Nazism gets you one job, there's going to be 100 more jobs you're not going to be able to get because Americans, for the most part, just don't like Nazis. I mean, we had a whole fucking war against them. So, all of your actions have consequences, people. If you get a giant fucking Nazi tattoo on the back of your skull, you're probably not going to get hired at any regular job. I mean, if he had enough money to run all of this Nazi shit, he probably should have, used that money to make some more money his own way. But I digress.
construction.
He was in construction.
And that side of the economy just completely dried up.
Completely dried up. And he tried and tried and tried to get work. And it's just scary.
It's crazy, too, how drastically different America is depending on which state you go to. Because I've been in Virginia a couple of times this last year. There is construction everywhere. And my homeboy Mason, he's probably going to watch this video. Shout out to Mason. He lost his farmer job. Yeah, I know he was a literal farmer. Go ahead and make fun of him. But he lost his farmer job and, then he got a construction job. So on this side of the country, there's still a lot of construction jobs. But, California's California. They do their own thing, so.
Poverty is a really scary thing.
Jeff lived in the Inland Empire, a vast
Not to mention California also has much higher living costs than most other states in America, so.
stretch of California desert east of LA. It was among the worst hit when the real estate market crashed, ranking 5th in foreclosures nationwide.
What probably happened is this guy was probably approached by some Nazis that probably helped him on his feet, and he probably became loyal to that organization forever. I don't know. It's a sad story all around. He's only been a Nazi for 3 years, and those 3 years was enough for him to get murdered by his own son. So, be careful who you follow. Be careful what ideologies you adopt. I made a whole video about this on my channel because people kept asking me if I'm a communist. I might put that down in the description below.
Entire communities became ghost towns. Unemployment reached 15%. Jeff was poor and
high.
angry with time on his hands when he came upon Jeff Scoop, commander of the National Socialist Movement.
You have illegal aliens coming over the
Oh, so I was right. Yeah, while he was unemployed, he came across the head Nazi guy. Yep, see?
border, streaming over in hordes, taking American jobs.
Neo-Nazis focused their tirades lately on immigrants and the so-called brown...
Yep, there you go. Immigrant. There, see, he's blaming the lack of jobs on every. Listen, bro, your boy has a giant fucking Nazi tattoo on the back of his skull. Like, unemployed for 3 years. That probably has something to do with it. Like, listen, man, you can't blame foreigners for taking the jobs when you're essentially guaranteeing that you're going to be disqualified. Again, all of our actions have consequences. Listen, man, you're free to be a Nazi. It's a free country. You're free to get Nazi tattoos on the back of your head, but don't fucking complain that people don't want to hire you because of the fact. That's all I'm saying, man. And again, the uniforms are fucking wrong again. But I digress.
Of America, where places like California no longer have a white majority.
We're a white civil rights organization.
California never had a white majority because we took California from Mexico during the Mexican-American War. The whole western side of the country we took from Mexico. So, California, to my knowledge, never had a white majority. But I digress.
What does that mean?
Basically, what Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton do for the black people is what we do for white people.
Well,
the thing is, right, Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, you know, they're at least liked by a decent amount of African Americans. The African Americans that follow that stuff, you know, those two individuals are liked by a decent, I'm not going to say majority, but they're liked enough by enough of African Americans to where if you're a supporter of Al Sharpton, you know, African American businesses won't refuse to hire you. Versus if you're a Nazi in America, most American businesses are not going to hire you if they know you're a Nazi. So when he says we're doing for white people what Al Sharpton does for black people, I mean, Al Sharpton can get you a job, you know, if you're running with his program. You know, can Nazis, I mean, these guys had that guy's back, but for 3 years while he was with them, he still couldn't find employment. You got to be careful who you align yourself with, man. All of your actions have consequences. That's all I'm going to say about that. We got to move on to the rest of the video.
Not exactly. I read to Commander Jeff Scoop this from the NSM's website. All non-whites should leave this nation, peacefully or by force.
Our ideal America would be an America that's all white. That doesn't mean...
Yeah, and everybody else has to leave, peacefully or by force. Wow.
Our goal is a white homeland.
I mean...
You have a white homeland. It's called Europe.
And the president's not white.
What the fuck? It's like these guys don't know their own history. It's like these guys don't know basic shit. Like, this is what the fuck I'm saying, man. Like, wow.
Our attorney general's not white, so they should leave. What about Jews?
It's no different than how in black communities, you know, because there's a lot of racist blacks as well. Nobody likes to admit this, but there's racism everywhere. But it ain't no different than growing up, man. You used to hear this argument because you would have black people that would say all the white people need to leave, and then, you know, somebody would usually say, well, if you want an African homeland, there's Africa. So it's the same shit. You want a place where there's mostly white people, you got Europe. You want a place where there's mostly black people, you got Africa. You want a place where there's mostly, you know, because there's different types of Spanish people, but I mean you got South America, you got Spain. You know, you want to go where there's a bunch of Chinese people, you got so you got options. You got enough money to run this. You got enough money to go where you want to go. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I just find it funny. They want to pick the hardest target, America. Again, the place where all the races gather. If they're fighting an uphill battle here, man, it's just illogical in my opinion. They should go someplace else where it's easier. But I digress.
They're also a race of people.
So they should leave.
Correct.
He knows that.
Wait, what did he say? Who's also a race of people?
So they should leave. What about Jews?
Oh, Jews.
They're also a race of people.
So they should leave.
He's right and he's wrong at the same time. Judaism is a religion, but Jews themselves, if your mom was Jewish, you're considered Jewish. And the reason they do that is because, you know, if the mom cheats, she's the one that carries the baby, so you know the mom. You know with 100% certainty there's a bloodline connection between the child and the mom. Versus with the father, again, if the mom cheats, you know, you're not gonna. I mean, you're not gonna know if he's like the real father or not. So that's why they do it by the mother. So he's wrong when he says that Judaism is a race, but it's a religion. But he's right Like, it's not a race, but I guess you could say they make it racial because, again, if your mom was Jewish, you're considered Jewish. So, but I digress.
Correct.
He knows that won't happen anytime soon, but he's
If
preparing.
at all.
10 white supremacists of various groups were on the ballot in 2010, including 3 for Congress. One candidate seeking local office was Jeff Hall.
Wait, did I hear that correctly? There's 3 congressmen that are Nazis?
That won't happen anytime soon, but he's preparing. 10 white supremacists of various groups were on the ballot in 2010, including 3 for Congress.
Oh, they were on the ballot, but they didn't actually. Gotcha.
One candidate seeking local office was Jeff Hall.
Jeff Hall ran for elections in California and took in almost 30% of the vote as an open National Socialist.
I'm gonna look into that. I find it, because California is like the liberal capital, I find it extremely hard to believe that 30% of the voting class in California almost elected a Nazi. I find that very difficult to believe. Like, that sounds like a number he just made up. I'm gonna look into that after I'm done making this video, but I mean, if 30% of, because liberals and Nazis are like opposites, right? So, I don't know. And there's only a few hundred Nazis. I don't know. I'm going to look into that. I find that very hard to believe.
It was a good run. It was a great run.
Beside that unsuccessful run for local water board, Jeff organized patrols at the Mexican border just a short drive from his home. They would show up fully armed with night vision equipment and round up migrants as they crossed into the U.S. 2 weeks before his death, Jeff bragged about taking his young son with him on patrol.
Showing your child this level of force and violence, like, you sealed your own fate, man. You sealed your own fate. You reap what you sow. If you sow the souls of death into a child, you must reap the seeds of death that you've sown into the child. The child will not die, you will die. And sometimes ironically by the child, but I digress. Those that understand what that mean, they get it. Those that don't understand probably will never get it. It's just one of those things.
My son was able to operate a Gen 1 night vision in the infrared scope. At the age of 9, my son's out of...
I'm pretty sure it's illegal in most states, including California, to let your child handle a firearm. But it doesn't matter. He's dead now, so it doesn't matter. You can't charge a dead guy with a crime, right? So
the border.
But the fact that he was comfortable enough to even brag about that, look at that little chubby guy in the background. But the fact that he was comfortable enough to brag about that on camera, I don't know.
So was being exposed to all that hate and talk of violence the reason Joseph murdered his dad?
You guys get your Glocks cocked and be ready to rock. We're going to the border. That's how we do it.
The more we looked, the more we realized it wasn't that cut and dried.
There might have been some things that we didn't know about Jeff that we wouldn't have liked.
Megan Hall, Jeff's sister, says she hated her brother's politics, but had always seen him as a model father.
He was an amazing father.
Children don't murder their parents if they're model parents. Something people have got to understand, there's levels. Children naturally love their parents. If a child harms their parents in any way intentionally, that love has broken down, okay? It is unnatural to dislike your parent, but it becomes a possibility when unnatural teachings happen. So, for a child to dislike their parent did something wrong. For a child to physically harm their parent did something wrong. For a child to kill their parent did something very wrong. There is levels and tiers of, love and hates. If a child murders his own parents, they've reached the highest tier of hate for their own bloodline. So yeah, model daddy, I don't think so.
and would do anything for his.
But I get it. This is a sister. She wants to make her brother look good, even in the end. So I get it.
Is.
We should just be honest. People should just be honest about what has happened, and there would be less problems. But I digress.
You know, my nephew would just look at him like he was his hero.
But in the last couple of years, the hero changed, darkened, whether it was the power of being a Nazi leader or the powerlessness of being unemployed. He drank more, she says, and was prone to striking out at his son and his wife, Krista.
Alcohol doesn't change you. It just exposes who you really are. Your sober truth, so to speak. So, people rarely change unless a drastic life event forces them to change. Now, you can make the argument that him losing his job and failing to find unemployment for 3 years and becoming like the head leader Nazi guy, you know, those are drastic life changes. So, I mean, maybe I stand corrected. Maybe he did change. I mean, I don't know. A guy that's a fucking Nazi, I'm sorry, man. I don't know. I'm not buying it. A guy that's a fucking Nazi, he had to have been like a certain type of way for a very long time for him to so easily accept this. You know, alcohol or not, but I digress.
Brother had shown a different side to him. Not all of the time. It was on random occasions, not predictable.
He was beating up both Joe and Krista, is what we heard. Is that what you've been told?
Yeah.
Young.
A model father, a devoted father beating up his son. His son who's too young to properly defend himself. Yeah.
Joseph told police that he decided to kill his dad to, quote, end the son versus father thing. Did he describe?
If that's actually what the child said, then this child clearly... Nobody likes to admit this about their own child, but if the child actually worded it that way and it's not just the cops fucking embellishing the story like they usually do, if he really worded it that way to end the son versus father thing, like, if he didn't say I shot my dad because I wanted him to stop beating me like a regular child would say, oh, I want to end the son versus father thing, that is a sign, a very, very big sign. Unfortunately, again, if that's actually what he said, that probably got used against him fully during the prosecution.
What the abuse entailed?
He described his father hitting him, kicking him, pushing him.
He found himself in a situation, or believed he was in a situation, that required some type of desperate act. What's unusual about Joseph Hall is that his solution to it was to kill. Most children don't think about what I'll need to do here is kill my father.
It's not so cut and dry. I see where the prosecutor is going with this. He's trying to find a way to label the child as a psychopath to make his prosecution easier. And I'm not going to lie, the child, again, if that's actually what he said, then the prosecutor is onto something. But I'm going to play devil's advocate here, okay? If a child is getting messed with, so there's levels to this shit, right? It's one thing if a child just has a school bully, right? If you're in, when you're 10 years old, you're in elementary school, right? You're in like the 5th grade, I think. Somebody can correct me on that if I'm wrong, but if it's just an elementary school bully, generally speaking, if you beat the crap out of the bully leaves you alone, right? Because, you know, if you're 10 and your bully is 9, 10, or 11, or 12 if he's failed a grade, you have a pretty good chance. You're basically fighting on even grounds, right? You beat him up, the principal gets called, school security gets called, you know, paperwork is done, the bully leaves you alone. Maybe you'll get suspended for a day or two. Your parents get told, but generally speaking, the bully leaves you alone after that, right? That's like the lowest tier of this, right? It's another thing entirely if the abuse and bullying is coming from your own parents, right? children, unfortunately, this is what leads to children committing suicide. Because how a normal child thinks is like, when the pain isn't stopping, they think, how do I make this pain go away forever? What's the solution? What's the permanent solution? I want this to stop. I don't want to feel this pain anymore, right? Some children become suicidal because they think they get, and the common variable here is death, right? Suicidal, depressed, and I guess you could say weaker children, they see death in a way, okay, death is the solution. Well, I'm not going to kill the other guy, I'm just going to kill myself because I feel like, in their minds, they feel like the reason they're being abused in the first place is because in their minds they feel like they're worthless, right? So, they'll see dying as the permanent solution to make all the pain stop. Stronger children and children that have higher self-esteem, that value themselves more, they also see death as a solution, as the permanent solution sometimes, right? This is how a child thinks, because children are not stupid, right? They may not be able to realize the far-reaching consequences of their actions, but their thought process is not stupid. A stronger child will think, okay, if I want to make this guy stop hurting me, I have to get rid of this guy permanently, right? Stronger children will think that. It's not necessarily a sign of psychopathy by itself. Now, death, if the child is thinking about death at a young age, it could be a sign of psychopathy, right? If death was the first thought, okay, if I kill my dad, the pain will go away forever, it could be a sign. But I'm going to play devil's advocate here, right? Depending on how long this abuse was going on, you know, I mean, if your dad won't stop beating you up, what's the permanent solution? I mean, you could tell the police, but if the police don't believe you, I mean, and this guy has a reputation, right? Nazi leader. Clearly his community loves him. If the police don't believe you, then what? Okay, here's the next best thing. Let me go get my dad's gun and just shoot him. I don't know. This whole situation is fucked. There's really no real positive way to look at this. This child murdered his father. And unfortunately, as you guys are going to see as the video goes on, the prosecution showed him no mercy. You heard what the prosecutor said when the kid was like, when I get out of here? This kid doesn't realize what's about to happen to him. That prosecutor intended to keep this kid in jail, in prison, for as long as he possibly could. And from what I understand, that's exactly what happened. I don't think he's getting out until he's 25, but I digress.
As the police began to dig, they discovered that little Joseph was a volatile and violent child who
Now here's where the plot thickens. This kid had a history.
had been kicked out of several schools for attacking students and staff, once nearly choking a teacher with a phone cord.
My grandson was who he was from the time he was born.
What do you mean?
He has absolutely no understanding of cause and effect.
It is so...
Because his father had no understanding of cause and effect, man. Like, 99% of the time, children grow up to be just like their parents. If you got a father that's a fucking Nazi in America, a fucking Nazi tattoo on the back of his head, clearly not understanding that his actions have consequences, how the fuck is the child gonna understand that?
rare that a 10-year-old would kill a father.
Well, but you know, I wasn't surprised by it. I just somehow felt it could always happen, but I thought it would be when he was older.
Would this have happened if Jeff had not become a Nazi?
I think so. Probably later.
I'll give her credit for being honest. And again, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. You know, could this child have psychopathy or some sort of anti-personality disorder? Because that's clearly what the documentary is trying to paint. That's clearly what the prosecutor is trying to paint. I'm going to play devil's advocate. They never say how long the abuse has been going on. Right? Children learn directly from their parents until they become teenagers. Then they learn from whoever they consider the most dominant male in their life. So if from a young age his dad was beating the crap out of him, what you're essentially teaching that child is that violence is the solution to all problems, right? So if daddy's beating me up and I have a problem with the kids at school, I'm going to beat up the kids at school. Nobody likes to admit this, but this is actually where a lot of bullies come from. You know, bullies learn from a young age that violence is the solution from whoever is bullying them, the parents, the brother, whoever the case may be. So they take what they learn from their abuser and they go and abuse other people. It's a vicious cycle. Again, not necessarily a symptom of psychopathy. Again, you know, weaker children, they get suicidal and depressed. Stronger children, they figure, okay, I can't beat up my abuser, so I'm just going to beat everybody else up and take my anger out on everybody else. So, I know it sounds like I'm defending a kid that murdered his father, but, I mean, again, I got mixed opinions about this. You guys comment what you guys think, right? Given the situation, given the circumstances, I mean, yeah, murder is a crime. I get it. The kid's got to get some sort of punishment so he doesn't just go around murdering everybody, right? I get it. But you have multiple people confirming that his dad was abusing him. And in his mind, the only way to make the abuse stop was to kill his father. So I understand that he needs to have some punishment, but I don't know. Being in prison until he's 25, because he's going to be in prison longer than he's been alive. Like, but I digress.
Joe was still Joe, and they weren't having a lot of luck figuring out exactly what his problems were or how to deal.
You know what his fucking problem was? His dad. His dad was abusing him, by your own admission.
Successfully with them.
Little Joseph also had a history of starting fires.
Does he raise the question of whether a killer...
The prosecutor's actually got a smug grin on his face. He's enjoying this. It's crazy.
Can be pre-programmed?
I think he had everything physically in place that it didn't take much to bring him right along to thinking that murder is inappropriate.
So he was born the match, and that environment in that home lit the match. Is that a fair way to...
Yeah, see, they're trying to paint this kid as a psychopath. And, you know, he may or may not be. Because, again, we're going off... This documentary is mostly hearsay, right? We're mostly going off about what other people have said about the child. The child himself has not said anything on this documentary to defend himself, so... But you can clearly tell they're trying to paint this image that the kid is a psychopath, so this was inevitable. Basically to justify prosecuting him to the fullest extent of the law. I mean, I don't know. I know, again, it's going to sound like I'm defending the kid that murdered his parent, but I think we should look at all sides of the situation and not just be, oh, he's a psychopath, throw him in prison. You know, but I digress.
I think it's a very fair way to say it.
Jeff's mother got custody of his 4 little girls because his wife pled guilty to leaving a loaded gun in the house.
Oh, so he had 5 children. Oh, man. The prosecutor's probably going to use that as evidence, too. Well, Mr. Christopher, you say this kid wasn't a psychopath, but he had 4 other siblings that grew up with him under the same living conditions, and they didn't go around beating up other kids, and they didn't go around trying to kill their father. Only this kid did, so clearly he's a psychopath, and he deserves his prosecution. I already know how fucking prosecutors think, man. I mean, it is what it is. And he would have a valid point in that argument, but I don't know. I think we should look at everything. And this is a 10-year-old kid, man. Like, I don't know. What would you guys have done in this situation? I don't know. Can't wait to read the comments for this video.
Every week, Joanne visits her son's young killer in juvenile hall.
It's a struggle every minute of my life because my son was murdered and I want justice for him. But only at the...
You can see it in her eyes. She hates that little boy. She hates her grandson for murdering her son. She hates that kid. You can see it in her eyes. You can see it in her facial expression.
That only happens at the expense of my grandson.
What about politics with these children? I mean, what, do you feel any obligation?
Children just shouldn't be taught politics in the first place. They're fucking kids. Let them enjoy life. Why are you teaching them politics?
To teach them about Nazis?
They're being raised conservative, Republican.
Not
we need
Nazis.
more of those in California.
But what about Nazism?
It's gone for this family.
Let kids be kids. Teach them to think critically and guide them to making their own path, making their own decisions. They're children. Don't fucking brainwash them with your ideology. That's how I feel about that.
Joseph awaits trial, incarcerated at the county's juvenile hall, where he celebrated his 11th birthday. Whatever his sentence, he will likely be released by the age of 25.
That's unfortunate. I tried to look further into this case. I couldn't find much, but from what I understand, yeah, that was his sentence. He's going to be in prison for a very long time. Anyways, you guys comment down below. What do you guys think? If you were the child, what would you have done in this situation? And if you were the prosecutor and you were the jury, what sentence would you have given this child? Do you think he should get life in prison? Do you think he should be in prison until he's 25? Or do you think he should get some leeway? You guys let me know in the comments below, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.